So I'm going to kind of just, in my opening rant here, address 3 or 4 things that I like and 3 or 4 things that I don't like. That's kind of been my whole goal with a lot of these watch-alongs, is to talk about the good and to talk about the bad. Because every movie has some good and some bad. So, for starters, because it's easier, let's talk about the things that don't work very well. For one, this is the biggest one, and one that you don't hear a lot of people talking about, but the fact that your 3 main characters in this new sequel trilogy don't spend any time together at all. So we have Rey, we have Poe, we have Finn. They're not together. Poe and Rey don't even meet until the end of the second movie, which just doesn't make any sense to me. That is one of the greatest missteps here. And what's funny is, like, John Boyega actually addressed that. Like, in one of his interviews, he was saying, hey, it was hard to be separated from my friends. Of course, he got close. Really, Finn is kind of the glue. What's up, Calvin? Good to see you, buddy. Finn is like the glue that keeps the 3 of these characters together. And he wasn't with them. He was off with Rose on those adventures throughout the whole movie. So that's my first dislike. The big 3 are not together. Second thing, Canto Bight, I really just do not enjoy at all. It's not very interesting. Stylistically, it doesn't really feel like Star Wars to me. And I noticed with Rian Johnson, the director, a lot of his films try to make the social commentary, which is fine, but it seems very heavy-handed. And this is the same problem that I have with Knives Out. If you want to look at a film that actually handles social commentary really well, I suggest watching either Joker or Parasite, that were both nominated for Best Picture last year. Peter's seen both of those, right, buddy? Those were great, not heavy-handed, but very subtle commentary on society today. But with Canto Bight, you have a character like Rose, who's like, I just wish I could punch my fist through this entire city, as she's overlooking all the wealthy war profiteers or whatnot. And it's like, okay, we get it. Free the horses, the space horses. And then the last thing that I want to address is basically Luke Skywalker's character, which I actually don't have that big of a problem with him being kind of changed. And I like the idea of our heroes not being this icon of perfection that we think they might be. However, he turns around and he becomes that hero again, which I love. We just don't get enough time with him as that hero before he gets killed off. That's a huge bummer to me. So if we could actually see him be the Jedi Master to Rey, that would have been so much better, because really he provides 2 lessons. He says he's going to give her 3, but he only gives her 2. And both of those lessons are all about how the Jedi have failed and how the light and the dark conversation is inconsequential, basically. So people say that he's filling in the Obi-Wan Kenobi role, but he's really not. We never see him play that kind of mentor in this movie. I love Rey and Kylo, especially the Force timing stuff. A lot of this is because the performances from Daisy and Adam are phenomenal. The chemistry between those 2 actors is palpable, which is what really makes this entire sequel trilogy work. The Praetorian Guard scene, where, of course, they fight in the throne room with Rey and Kylo. I love the look. There's a lot of red in this movie, but the red costume design for those guards is really cool. Kind of a callback to the old Imperial Guard look on Return of the Jedi, or in Return of the Jedi with Palpatine's security force or whatever. But we didn't get to see them fight in Return of the Jedi. So now we get to see the Praetorian Guards fight, and it's wicked cool. Even though there is a moment where there is a weapon that mysteriously disappears, and the internet discovered this for us. We have them to thank for that. I'll point it out to you when we get to it. The last good thing I want to talk about with this movie before we get started is Yoda. I really do like that scene between Luke and Yoda. It's a really well-written scene. The design of Yoda is so close to being spot on with Empire Strikes Back, and I'll talk about how that happened once we get to his scenes. But basically, they found a lot of the original stuff for the Yoda creation, but they were missing one important component. Everybody ready? 3, 2, 1, and play. Hopefully, we'll get as close as possible. Haven't seen this one in a while, and I think that's the consensus that a lot of people have said. How about you guys? Have you seen it more than once, I guess, is the question. A lot of people on Facebook were saying they have not seen it since it came out in theaters, which is funny since it's talked about so much. Kelvin says, I do like the Yoda Luke scene. Yeah, I agree. It's a highlight of the film, and an otherwise kind of all over the place film. Star Wars, Episode 8. So, for this movie, Kelvin, I'm glad you brought up the R2 message scene. That scene made me cry the first time I saw it. Not afraid to admit it. Something about seeing that Princess Leia footage again from the very first movie was just really impactful. Okay, so the First Order reigns. Peter, you watch this every Tuesday? Wow, that's commitment, my friend. Now, bear in mind, this takes place right after The Force Awakens, like literally minutes after Starkiller Base explodes, which is unlike anything that we've seen in the Star Wars movies. Usually there's like at least a year. Between episodes 1 and 2, there's 10 years. So this is very different territory here. The working title for this movie was Space Bear. So up front I like to talk a lot about alternate titles and stuff. With working titles, that's just kind of what the production comes up with in order to not get a lot of like fan interest coming and attacking them while they're on location. So Space Bear was the name for this one. Now originally this was going to be a pan down to Finn's hospital bed, I guess. There's a deleted scene where you can see that Finn is like inside his little capsule in the sick bay, and then there's a dome on it. So it looks like it's a planet, but it's actually just Finn. So instead, we cut straight to the chase here, and we see the evacuation here on Dakar. And there's Carrie Fisher's real-life daughter, Billie Lourd, whose name in the movie is Connix. Commander Connix? Lieutenant Connix? I don't know. One of those. And there's the Kylo Ren theme. I gotta turn on my subtitles. Oh, they're in German. There we go. There's English. And here's General Hux. Something weird is like his makeup seems to be much different in this film. I don't know what it is. It looks like they added some weird darkness underneath Donald Gleason's eyes to make him look kind of like Skeletor. Little odd. And then here's the Dreadnought. So Ryan wanted to use, create different and new star cruisers and spaceships and whatnot. And the Dreadnought here was meant to kind of be like a submarine. Yeah, Hux gets kind of turned into like a laughing stock here. He looks more sullen, Peter says. Yeah, I don't know what the idea was. Here's Leia, our first shot of Leia. And of course, this came out right after her death. So that was a little odd seeing her in this movie the first time, knowing that she had passed away. The lady at the controls is in Game of Thrones? Wait, for the First Order or the Resistance? See, Ryan's use of humor in this movie is strange to me. This is the your mama joke that Poe Dameron pulls on General Hux. And Poe keeps calling him General Hugs, Hugs. And to me, a lot of the jokes that Rian Johnson uses either take us out of a serious moment or they seem too modern. Like, they seem appropriate for a 17 audience, like we were back when this first came out. But that just doesn't seem to fit a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Caleb, nice to see ya. Timestamp is 4 minutes and 36 seconds. 4:37:38. Poe is heading straight towards the First Order. Peter says, okay, the lady at the controls of the First Order is in Game of Thrones. I'll have to go back and catch that sometime. Lady Aaron. Oh, Parker, thanks for the like, buddy. Lady Aaron is the one that has the creepy kid, right? Robin or whatever? I think that's who it is. Now, yeah, I'm recognizing that face. Look at Hux here. Like, he's just droopy McGee. He looks like Jyn Erso's grumpy cat face in Rogue One. I don't understand why we made him a buffoon. Alright, so this is the inside of the Dreadnought. This guy, hold on, I got his name somewhere. Captain Kennedy. Captain Kennedy. And then the red light was something that Rian Johnson wanted to use to kind of differentiate the bridge. Hi, Parker. He wanted to differentiate the bridge of a Dreadnought from the bridge of a destroyer. So, Jesse, thanks for the like, buddy. I really appreciate it. There is some cool stuff that Poe does in this little sequence. I think coming up here where he like jams the throttle and does a quick turn. I don't really love this BB-8 stuff too much though. It's tough. Like, it seems like it's really hard for directors to figure out what to do with these droids. Am I right? I mean, the original trilogy, that's part of why the movies were so successful. It's because the droids carried like the first film. It's like all droids for 20 minutes. Terry, you showed up. Gotta love 7-year-old breastfeeding. Yeah, that is the scene. That is the actress. You're so right, from Game of Thrones. The red light in the Dreadnought is similar to the lighting in a sub. Yep, I think that's what he was going for there. There's Carrie. Gosh, I miss her. It's funny to see her with all this jewelry on because Carrie like was really into jewelry and pushed Rian to like add, and the costume staff to like add more jewelry to her character. It's wild though how much her voice has changed since he was a 19-year-old in 1977. I guess that's what drugs will do to you. Rest in peace, Carrie. Love you. This is a funny joke with 3PO. There's a joke that works. There's a droid moment that works. More of that stuff is what we need. I do love these old animations. Yeah, this whole idea of BB-8 like plugging up the holes in a dam or something because water, you know, it's a silly gag. It's kind of a prequel era type of gag. Here's the move that Poe has. See, that's just a cool starfighter thing we've never seen, where he crams it over to one side. And, yeah, Oscar Isaac is great. His performance adds a lot of realism to a lot of this stuff in the cockpit, where he's jerking and jostling. And here come the bombers. The bombers that would spark many debates online about gravity and atmospheric pressure and whatnot. Silly thing to complain about in my opinion, because I mean, I'm watching a space fantasy movie about, you know, walking, talking bears who can pilot Millennium Falcons. That guy's one hell of a pilot. Good old Poe. / Finn. Finn's the one that says the line, and Poe's the one that encourages the line every time. The Y-Wings. Yeah, we don't see any Y-Wings here. We got a lot of them in Rogue One last time. But not too many Y-Wings. They added, or they had to create a whole lot of new sound effects too for stuff like these bombers, and later in the movie when we get to Crate, and where we see those little skimmers. I was watching like a 5-minute documentary on like all the sound designing stuff. Like at some point in here, in this space battle sequence, there's a sound effect that was created using a roll of tape, and they just like unrolled or like ripped off a strip of tape from the roll really quickly to make that sound. See, these bombs look cool. There's one thing I'll give Rian credit for. There's a lot of really interesting visuals in this movie. These explosions are all pretty dope. I'd be curious to hear from someone like Terry, who's big into like the war scenes and stuff, if he enjoys this stuff, because I think it looks pretty cool. All right, so here's Paige. Paige is going to be Rose's older daughter. So Rose is like one of the main characters that we meet here in a little bit, and yeah, Paige is the last bomber. We only get to really meet her for a few minutes, but I think her performance is actually quite good. She does a lot with the short amount of time that she's given on screen. Woo! Terry says the skimmers were so dumb. All right. Fair enough. I mean, I don't know a lot about like the spaceships. Like my interest in Star Wars is more about like the aliens and the relationships and stuff, and less. I mean, I like these spaceships. Don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't say it's my area of expertise. See that shot there where Paige falls down? You see the rows of bombs there? I think that's just a really visually cool shot. Here where it opens on her eye, on her open eyeball there. The remote. All of these are really cool images. And I remember, seeing this for the first time and it having kind of an impact on me, being like, can she kick that thing loose? Terry says it does look cool. Okay, cool. We found something to agree on. The bomb, that shot of her falling. There she grabs the necklace that we'll see Rose wear later on in the movie. And here comes the remote. And of course, Ryan's got to trick you because he's such a trickster. But it looks like she misses it and then turns around the last second. See, that's one thing that I have very mixed feelings about with Ryan's approach. Like, he wants to trick his audience every possible time he can. And after a while, it just becomes annoying? Jarring? Anyway, so the bombs drop, even though everybody, all the angry people online said, hey, it's not possible, there's no gravity. I'm like, okay. But we get to see this explosion. Paige has sacrificed herself, and the dreadnought is destroyed. Terry says, I enjoyed most everything with the New Empire stuff in it. New Empire stuff? What do you mean? What's the New Empire stuff? Like stuff that they took, like stuff that the First Order took from the Imperial Remnant? Okay, here we see that Leia is depressed about all. This is some nice little work here with Carrie. I find that Carrie's better. This is going to sound terrible. Like, the less that she has to say, I don't think she has a handle on dialogue at this point in her career that she had back when she was literally studying in London. Tim, thanks for the reaction. She just, a lot of the dialogue seems to be awkward for her. Peter says the shot of the eye opening is something J.J. Abrams used in Lost. He didn't direct the entire series, but that kind of shot continued throughout the series. Maybe Ryan took that from him. Maybe. That's a big question, is like, how much did Abrams influence anything that Rian Johnson did? Because apparently Abrams and the writer, Lawrence Kasdan, developed some level of written down story treatments. But Ryan basically cut it all out. So here's the shot that I was telling you all about earlier, where we pan down to Finn in the capsule. That was going to be the opening look. And here's John Boyega. He grows on me more and more each movie. I don't love him in Force Awakens, but and honestly, there's a lot of stuff on Canto Bight that I don't like here. But this stuff's funny when he's falling down and the water's squirting all over the place. That gives me a chuckle. I like Poe Dameron's paint job on his X-Wing. I feel like that might be something Terry, I'm going to just ask you about all like the spaceships and the weapon stuff in these movies. Look at Finn. Caleb says, just curious, did anyone else notice that Hux's eyebrows somehow got more defined? Dude, I was talking about that. His makeup is totally different. He's got like these dark bags under his eye and these weird eyebrows. So Finn immediately wakes up and asks, where's Rey? Which helps my theory that Finn is actually still very much in love with Rey. And I think that's what he was going to tell Rey when they were sinking in the sand, because JJ didn't say anything about it being otherwise in the movie itself. I know that later in interviews he's like, well, he was going to tell her he was force sensitive, but that wasn't in the movie, so I get to make up whatever I want. Oh boy, here's the first moment that's like, ugh, this feels wrong to have Luke do this. Yeah, I don't love it. I don't mind Luke being different and being a little more calloused, but this really, sticks a knife in you. And I think that this sort of stuff is what made critics like the film. Because remember, critics reviewed this well. Like, it's got a high IT score. It's the fan base that really turned on the franchise when this movie came out. So let's talk about Skellig Michael, which is the island that we're on where they shot this in Ireland. It used to be a monastery. This monastery was built like in 800 AD, y'all, and it's really remote, obviously, and I kind of want to go there. It's beautiful. Calvin says, ugh, Ryan Johnson. Terry, totally in love with her the whole time. Thanks, man. I'm glad I have a fellow sucker for romance guy. I'm all about the romance. Look at that water, though. This just looks like a beautiful location. Now, they only shot here for 2 days because since it's freaking porgs. Here's the porgs, y'all. See, a lot of these jokes, too, are very prequel-esque type of jokes. And now we see the X-Wings buried under the water. So apparently Luke has no intention of leaving. And here's his hut as he lays out his Jedi robes. Now, why was he wearing his Jedi robes in the first place? Is that ever explained? Does anybody know? And here's Chewie. See, wish we had more of a moment with the two of them. Except I don't know if Luke ever learns how to speak Wookiee. Here's the question. Where's Han? Oh, so much going on. Terry says the weird love story arc wasn't good, but I think it took enough of a backseat to not detract from the films. I'm assuming you mean the love story between Finn and Rey. Yeah, it just kind of got dropped in the mess. So here we see Snoke. Okay, guys, you see those huge, tall, black hooded figures on the right by that spyglass thing? Those are called the Attendants. And they're like this mute alien race that helps navigate the First Order through the unknown regions. Okay, so here's Snoke. He asks about the wound. Now, how he knows that Kylo got slashed across the face is beyond me. I don't know. Jesse says because he thinks he looks dope in them. Probably right. Kelvin says he didn't take a change of clothes with him to exile. Well, he apparently has 2 clothes. 2 different types of clothes. Oh, my wife liked the video. So Andy Serkis, of course, continues to play the role of Snoke with some great motion capture work. I think his costume design, his wardrobe choices are kind of interesting. Speaking of wardrobe, just got done talking about Luke's wardrobe choices. Now we have Snoke in this like illustrious gold bathrobe. And he's kind of just talking in a condescending manner to Kylo. See, I actually really enjoy this stuff. When he says, take that ridiculous thing off. This idea of him basically gaslighting Kylo and manipulating him by saying, he's basically saying you're not worth anything unless you're with me. If it wasn't for me, you'd be nothing. And that's what Kylo does with Rey later in the movie, where he's like, you're a nobody, but not to me. So that's kind of a nice parallel there. Also, Kylo Ren's scar has definitely been moved. You are unbalanced. See, Ryan, I don't think really understood the concept of balance in the Force. Terry, you and I have talked about this at great length. And the way that George Lucas always described, Caleb calls him Space Hugh Hefner. Yeah, he does. Snoke does kind of look like that in his robe. He just needs like a cigar or a pipe. But yeah, George Lucas always described the balance as being like harmony. And what puts that harmony or balance out of whack is when the dark side's tapped into. But every time Ryan addresses balance in the Force in this movie, it goes the opposite way. And it talks about like a literal balance of the scales. Snoke is referring to Kylo as being unbalanced. Doesn't really make sense. It kind of this is part of the problem with different directors tackling this story here is a lot of inconsistencies. All right, Kylo smashes his helmet. Apparently Ryan Johnson didn't want him to wear the helmet throughout the whole movie, so it's broken. It's broken, and it comes back in Rise of Skywalker. He's a Sith. Of course he's unbalanced. LOL, Terry says. However, he's not actually a Sith. And I know you're not as big of a fan of the sequel trilogy, Terry, but yeah, Kylo and Snoke are not Sith. I don't know what religion they really subscribe to. They're obviously dark side users, but it's never said what they are. The mask looks awesome. I love Kylo's mask as well. I'm kind of perplexed why Ryan wanted to get rid of it. Do you watch any stupendous wave videos on YouTube? Jesse asks. No. Here's the thing, bro. I have so many people recommending different YouTube videos to me, specifically Star Wars YouTube videos, because, oh, have you heard this theory? Oh, have you heard this criticism? That I have a backlog of stuff I have to watch. Now, I try to get to them all, so if you want to send me one, you totally can, man. But it might be a while. Alright, so back in Occ 2, this beautiful shot above the island. I mean, who doesn't want to go there and check that place out? But apparently Mark wanted to sleep up there overnight. Oh no, here's the sea cow part. Kelvin says Snoke apparently isn't a real person. That's correct. He's just like a machination of Emperor / Darth Sidious. This is the worst. I never got the milking of the sea cow thing. Like, when people get upset about the emasculation of Luke Skywalker in this movie, I think about this scene, because that is just like, why? Why? And when you watch the documentary, thanks Jesse, when you watch the documentary called The Director and the Jedi, it's all about Rian Johnson and this whole process. There's a huge part of it dedicated to the creation of the sea cow, the transportation of the sea cow to the island, because they had to put it on a wire and a helicopter that sea cow over to the island. So they invested a lot of money and a lot of time into that stupid thing. Yeah, Caleb, thanks. I hate the alien milking too. And it was like, why didn't you cut that out and give Luke a moment to grieve the loss of his best friend? Like, he's just learning that Han has died. And there was actually a scene where he's in his hut crying over that information, and Mark Hamill does a stupendous job of it, and it got cut. It's like, it's only 30 seconds. You decided to devote 60 seconds to the sea cow? I just don't get it. I don't get it. The alien looks at Rey and is like, yeah, baby, he touched me. Oh, that's so gross. But you're right, Caleb. The alien does give a look to Rey that's like, very, very creepy and uncomfortable. Alright, so Rey has decided she's going to haul Luke around until he finally decides to teach her something, right? And she hears this calling from the tree. Now, this set is not on location. They built this tree set on the back lot of in London. Most of the principal photography was done in London. Why would they cut that? Right, Jesse? I don't know. Go check out the scene. It's on a lot of the special features, and I think it's on Disney Plus too. And I forget if he's crying over the loss of Han, or if it's just this all-encompassing emotion of failure for him. But Mark Hamill does a superb job in that moment. This scene is kind of interesting. Luke looks really funny in that doorway. Rian Johnson wants more jokes than emotion, Kelvin says. Terry says, I thought Snoke was Sidious. Well, touche, my friend, touche. Because I guess technically, if Snoke is Sidious, he would be Sith. I didn't really think about it that way. Peter says, London. They shot most of the principal photography in London. They did location stuff here on the island, in Ireland. They did location stuff in Croatia for Canto Bight. There might be, the salt flats in Bolivia, I believe, were some other location stuff. Terry, I still need to see the last film. You do, man, you do. But no, you're right, Terry. I think technically he is Sith because Sidious is working through Snoke the whole time. Okay, so this is interesting because Luke's all like, so what is your objective in this film, Rey? What is your motivation? I'm letting the actor nerdiness come out. But This is good because Rey still really hasn't found her purpose. I mean, she's been sent here by Leia. Her objective is to get Luke to join the Resistance. That's not going well. But she still has this super overarching objective, right? Which is the truth about her heritage, who are her parents. Colin Madej? Dude, what's up, buddy? So glad you joined. Haven't heard from you. Caleb says, the Emperor Snoke thing just proves how little Disney thought about this trilogy. He's not a Sith, but he's a Palpatine. I'm assuming you meant Palpatine and not Palestine. That's hilarious. Yeah, it's kind of a mess. Colin, we were watching a movie. Shh. Thanks for the like, Colin. Appreciate it. So, poor Rey, she just doesn't know, what's going on. Oh, I was going to tell you guys, though, about Mark Hamill's request. So, he didn't want to have to climb those 600 steps every single day, right? So he asked if he could camp out every night on the island. And Kathleen Kennedy was like, okay, I'll ask. Because they have to go through the historical, I forget what it's called. There's like a special council for historicals, right? And since there's historical significance to this island, everything had to go through them. And they were like, nope, Mark Hamill, sorry, you can't camp out. This scene where Leia slaps Poe, they had to shoot that 24 times. They did 24 takes, and Oscar Isaac was like, yeah, when I signed up for Star Wars, I didn't know I was gonna get slapped by Princess Leia 24 times in a row. Oh, whoops. Yeah, I figured you meant Palpatine and not Palestine. Terry, you're cracking me up. So, alright, Finn is still wearing the jacket. They did cut a scene out, too. Oh, this is kind of an important thing to see, that Leia has this beacon. So, I guess before Rey left for Ahch-To, they exchanged beacon numbers. But, yeah, there was a scene where Finn tries to give the jacket back to Poe, and Poe's like, you know what, man, just keep it. Doesn't he say that at the end of Force Awakens, though? So why would Rian Johnson reshoot something like that? Because I know for a fact, y'all, I watched the scene. It's right after Finn wakes up and gets dressed, and he gives the jacket back again. And Poe's like, no, man, it's yours. It's very odd. Okay, so they're discovering, is noticing that they've tracked them through light speed. A true Jedi would climb the steps. It's the monk thing to do. Nice. Who would deny Luke Skywalker? Right, Calvin? I don't know, man. I guess those historical committees are pretty strict. Also, maybe they didn't... I wonder how much they had to tell the historical society. Like, did they have to say, hey, we're shooting Star Wars? Or could they just say, hey, we're shooting a movie? I don't know. So, an interesting note about the hyperspace tracking. If you all watched Rogue One with me, you'll remember that when Jyn Erso is in the archives for the Empire, she comes across the file that talks about hyperspace tracking. Kind of fun. It's the super duper Death Star Star Destroyer. Correct. Snoke's big Star Destroyer. This explosion here was mostly all practical effects too. So, well, wait for it. We got to see Kylo. So his new TIE fighter is pretty dope, I think. Terry, what's your opinion? It's called the TIE Silencer. Look at that thing spin. I like it quite a bit, actually. It feels appropriate for Kylo Ren. So he goes through this convenient tunnel located in the side of the ship and blows up this docking bay. So Oscar Isaac is on a wire here. That's the real actor getting pushed back, and he talks about how much fun that sort of stuff was. But gotta love the real explosions, right? On-set explosions. Kevin Fox, yes, bro, you're so right. Jyn Erso comes across the file called Darksaber. Yeah, that's good stuff. Caleb says Johnson had no right to kill Akbar. Oh, man. Poor Admiral Akbar. Interesting note about him, the guy who did the voice for Akbar forever died before they did this movie. So in like that one line that Akbar has, it's the voiceover actor who does Yoda from the Clone Wars, who's from Kansas City, Tom Kane. I don't know if anybody of you know Tom Kane, but he voices Yoda and a lot of characters on Clone Wars and does Akbar here. Okay, so Kylo is sensing his mom on board. There's something about the fade between those two shots of Leia and Kylo that are the same between Luke and Vader and Empire. Something Ryan wanted to do. Of course, you can't do it. You can't kill both parents, bro. It's just redundant. And here goes Carrie. See, now when this movie came out, and Leia gets seemingly killed, like I thought this was the end of her character here. And I was like, that's it. That's how they got rid of the character. Clean cut. Kevin Fox, have you met Tom Kane? Guy, I've heard many interviews with him and he sounds lovely. What else we got here? Such a disgrace for Akbar. Super cool. Okay, Terry, you like the TIE silencer? Cool. I'm a fan too. Yeah, it is very similar to the TIE interceptor that Vader uses. I think that was part of the plan that Rian Johnson had. Kelvin, he should have been the one to suicide Lightspeed. Yeah, that's a big thing online that people said Akbar should have gone down doing the Haldo maneuver. I didn't do my warm-ups, guys. Okay, so here's Leia floating through space. You've been to his house, Kevin Fox. I'm very jealous. I'm gonna give you a like on that one, man. So Leia floating through space. Let's talk about it. I don't hate it. It does look a little funny, and I understand why people make fun of it because it's kind of got that Mary Poppins thing going on, right? But I've always wanted to see Leia use the Force, and this is in a way that's like really interesting. And you get to hear her theme, the classic John Williams theme. I don't know. Now that I'm seeing it again, it doesn't look quite as goofy as everybody. See, the internet makes everything worse than it really is. This isn't so bad. It walks through the hologram of that dreadnought there. Yeah. I mean, I do get the complaints, but I like it. That's just me. Caleb says he hates it. Fair enough, man. And now the beacon is in Finn's possession, and so he's like, yo, I've got Rey's beacon. I can jet out of here because my one and only objective is to always be with Rey. Peter says maybe she never returned and was just a Force projection the rest of the series. Interesting theory. This is not the way for Leia to use the Force. Nah. Kelvin says I want to see her use the Force, but not like this. Terry says it doesn't make sense. Yeah, that's fair, man. It works for me. Doesn't work for you guys. I totally respect that. Okay, this is comedy bit here. Kelvin, I might like your input here. I just don't know. I feel like Chewie should eat the dumb porg, right? Like, you can still make the joke about it where you have the porgs watch. I think what bothers me is that Chewie doesn't eat the stupid thing. Like, a Wookiee's gotta eat, for crying out loud. Peter says, I love this scene. I assume he's talking about the one with Luke coming up and not the Chewie eating the porg scenes. This is good. Seeing Luke on the Falcon again is good. This is the sort of thing that I want to see. Okay, and here's the dice. It's a very odd choice for Ryan to highlight the dice, considering how little that stuff shows up in the rest of the story. I mean, at this point, we've only seen the dice in A New Hope, and even then, nobody really saw it. It's not talked about. I didn't even know what it was until this movie came out, and I'm like, what? This is great. When R2 wakes up, seeing the two of them back together it's seriously like old friends reunion. Caleb says porks can get barbecued as many times as Chewie gets. There you go. Eat it! Peter, you were talking about the porg scene? Lies. You don't like that scene. This moment that made me cry. Because I think the reason it had an emotional impact is because Carrie Fisher was actually gone. So not only did it bring me back to A New Hope and all the emotions that I have attached to that movie, but it brought up emotions with Carrie's recent passing. And this is real footage that they took from A New Hope and fit it in somehow. It's a beautiful little moment. Kevin Fox says he already killed it, skinned it. Why does the pork have issues with him eating it? Dude, you're so right. You're so right. Yeah, it's not like him not eating it is going to bring the porg back to life. All right, so that little reunion with R2 has finally inspired Luke to go ahead and give Rey 3 lessons. Here's Commander Darcy, something like that, breaking the news about Admiral Akbar's death. Little lackluster, huh? A little, not very ceremonious, I would say. R.I.P. Leia? Talking about my wife, Terry? Or you're talking about the character? Thank you, Kelvin. I like the nostalgia scenes too. As long as they fit and they make sense in universe, I'm all about bringing back the old things that we have an emotional connection to and using them to catapult us into new territories. Kevin Fox says best part of that movie right there. I agree. It's a good scene. All right. So now we meet Holdo. Love Laura Dern. If you guys haven't seen Marriage Story, by the way, with Laura and Adam Driver, she is phenomenal in that movie. I love her. I love Jurassic Park. Who doesn't love Laura Dern in Jurassic Park? But I don't hate this character like some people do. It just seems strange to me. A lot of the choices are kind of strange. Yeah, the worst name badges. Kelvin says maybe the porg wanted to eat some. You think the porg was a king? Gross. Terry says the porg had his Jabba's thing. Are you talking about like the little frog thing he had in that bowl? Yeah, that's true. I think that sums it up right there, Kevin Fox. Love Laura Dern, hate Holdo. Yeah, and I don't get her costume design. I don't get her hair. Like, it's a few things like Ryan's film that are like, this doesn't quite go with the Star Wars aesthetic. Where JJ really kind of latched on to the original trilogy aesthetic, Ryan didn't in some places. And she's just like mean to Poe. I kind of get what Ryan's trying to do here. His idea with Poe, he wanted Poe to get not really put in his place so much, but that is how it comes across. Like, you just see him being emasculated big time. And it's like, could resolve with some simple communication. I don't know. Kelvin says, I don't get Holdo. Is she an alien or just a human with purple hair? I think she's a human with purple hair, I guess. The Raptors hated Laura Dern. Fact. Now I just want to watch Jurassic Park. No, how are we supposed to have a connection with this character? She's an absolute bitch, the hero of the last movie. Yeah, I think that hits the nail on the head right there, Kevin. And I don't know, I think Ryan wanted to play his little trickery game again and didn't want us to know if she was a good guy or a bad guy, if she was a mole. Because that's what I remember thinking when I first saw this movie, is that maybe she's a First Order mole. But she's not. So then she shouldn't be such a jerk, right? It's weird. All right, here's Rose. She's doing a good job acting her heart out here. It is not easy to develop tears like that when you're not playing off another actor, by the way. Believe me, I've tried. This scene here is actually probably the best Finn Rose scene in the whole thing, where he's trying to get out, and she's like kind of got these celebrity goggles on. This henchman thing with the creepy laugh. I'm trying to remember which character you're talking about, Terry. Oh, Salacious Crumb, the lizard monkey. Yeah, you don't like Salacious Crumb. I'm with you now. She and Leia have that I like him moment. Oh, yeah, that's a good point, Kevin. I know exactly what scene you're talking about. Yeah, weird choices. There's a lot of character inconsistencies, and one of those is with Rose. And I mentioned it earlier, but I'll mention it again when we get to Canto Bight. She has a line that kind of contradicts something she says at the end of the movie. That's like, wait a second, I thought you were all for being violent, and now you're saying let's be pacifists. It's very strange. But anyway, back to this scene that we're talking about at the moment. Finn is this is humor that works. John Boyega, I think, does a pretty decent job here, trying to be like casual and coy, and be all there is nothing going on here. I feel the need to shout out a timestamp too if people are chiming in. We're at the 40-minute, 20-second mark. 40:22. He just got tased! Tased by Rose. Peter points out that his jacket is stitched up from the saber wounds. That's right. That's another thing that was supposed to be highlighted in that scene with the jacket exchange between Finn and Poe that got cut. I love that she puts him on this little conveyor thing. Like, this stuff is entertaining. I don't know why they decided to put her in that costume, though. Ryan, in one of the documentaries, says, I want her to be in an unflattering jumpsuit. I'm like, why would you do that to that poor actress? And the hair with the swoop? It's kind of strange. Why so much slapstick? I hate the comedy, Kevin Fox says. Yeah, I agree, Kevin. A lot of the comedy is strange. Caleb says, Rose is like, alright, but an unneeded character for the side plot and even the purpose of the narrative of the movie. Yeah, I think you're right. I think Ryan added characters when he didn't need to. He had enough characters already that still needed to be developed and grow together, that it just got to be too much. I mean, look at Phasma, for example. Boy, what a waste in this movie. Should just left her dead from TFA. Just been done with it. Alright, so let's see. Finn is trying to convince Rose and now Poe something. I don't even remember. It's been a while since I've seen this. This was the first scene that they shot, though. Day one was Finn, Poe, Rose here. Oh yeah, they're sneaking on the Dreadnought. Which would, that's right. Basically they want to shut down the hyperspace tracking stuff that they got. Kevin says, Kelly Marie is so beautiful, Rose is unflattering. Yeah, I don't know, they didn't really do her any favors at all. I think she's a sweetheart. I'm pissed when I think about all the things that people said, the racist things that people said online about her. You can not like the character, that's fine. I don't love the character, but people need to chill out and like still have respect for the person. And that's the big thing that we all got to realize is these artists, put their heart and soul in a lot of this stuff. So if it doesn't work out and you don't like it, don't make it a personal attack. Just, tell me your thought process. Caleb says, Rose, some nobody, just figured out light speed tracking. Light speed tracking, yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying, Caleb. How does Rose know about the light speed tracking? I don't remember, man. I'd have to go back and revisit that scene. Does she have a line about knowing? Here's Maz Kanata's little cameo, which was shot at the very end of photography. She's apparently in a union dispute. Bear in mind, this picks up, again, moments after The Force Awakens, probably less than a day after The Force Awakens, and she somehow has found herself in a violent union dispute. What happened is Ryan forgot that he had to write something for Maz Kanata, and Lupita Nyong'o was under contract for 3 films. And this is also a really weird moment when she tells them about the code breaker at Canto Bight, and she's like, oh, he's good with everything, and does that like I want you eyes thing towards the camera. It's very creepy. Peter, you see now we need an important mission or we'll be written out of the next movie. That's kind of what Finn says. Phasma's my girl. Yeah, Terry, she was terribly mishandled in this movie. Like we needed the Brienne of Tarth type of role for Gwendolyn Christie. Yeah, she got shafted. And Ryan did have a little bit more for her to do at the end, and I will talk about it once we get there. But I'm glad because it was even worse if he had kept it. Kevin says, who is not going to be in Star Wars? If asked to be in Star Wars, I would say yes, no matter the role, right? Nothing against the actor if the character sucks. Couldn't agree more, buddy. Can't buy scene, waste of time. Couldn't agree more, buddy. We're on the same page. All right, so here's their first Force timing moment between Rey and Kylo. Like I said earlier, I love this stuff. The fact that the music and the sound cuts out there too, and they see each other for the first time. She tries to shoot him with her blaster. So I think why this is so effective, there's a few reasons. First off, we get to see another way the Force can be used, a new and creative way the Force is used, which I'm, for the most part, all for. We always see that happen usually from movie to movie. The Force is used in a different way. But also, it allows us to see them bond. Something I've mentioned before about the sequel trilogy that I like is that it's a relationship between a protagonist and antagonist that we've never seen before. They have a very intimate bond, which is further addressed in The Rise of Skywalker. And it's these scenes between these actors who are killing it that really make it work. Kevin says, "This is our only hope? We failed." What? There's another option? There's always a bigger fish. And of course, Luke is closed off to the Force, so he doesn't see Kylo yet. He just sees the destruction that Rey did on these poor little caretakers. Haven't really talked about the Toad nuns yet. I kind of love them. I'm not going to lie. They're super weird. But they kind of remind me of something like out of Jabba's palace sort of thing. Knots from Empire. Yeah, I like these. And Ryan says in one of the documentaries that with a lot of his character design and alien design, he wanted to go for like the beautiful and the grotesque. And sometimes that worked out and sometimes it didn't. Didn't work out with the sea cow. I think it works out pretty good with the turtle nuns. I like the turtle nuns. Peter says, "I like Kylo's little risky business slide across the floor." You're so right. I know exactly what you're talking about, although I've never thought of that before. Terry says, "I'd be Stormtrooper number 57 in the next Star Wars," right? Nobody's going to decline a Star Wars script. I mean, it could be the worst Star Wars script ever, and I'd be like, sign me up, man. I don't care what the internet does to me afterwards. I'll just not read it. That's another thing. Like, I feel like people need to just not be on social media. That's what I would do if I was one of these big actors. Brain can only take so much criticism after a while. So this is lesson number 1. And there's some bad use of humor in this. Kevin says, "I was Stormtrooper 4 out of 40? Were you part of 501st or something, Kevin? Were you actually in a movie?" All right, so let's break down some of the things that Luke's talking about. I kind of get what Ryan was going for, but here's the joke that I hate so much. The one, yeah, see this whole thing with the slapping of her hands with the blade of grass is just like not funny. The new Force dreams. Communication things. Oh, Terry, you don't like the Force timing between the two. Kevin says, "You're not in The Mandalorian, you big jerk." No, that's awesome, dude. I'm super stoked for you. Did they shoot that, though, in LA, right? Are you in LA now? I can't remember where you are. More comedy, chapter 7 and 8. Dude, that is so cool. So cool. If only I was still in LA when they were all the films they shoot in London, so I could never do any background acting for the London stuff. So yeah, Luke's basically teaching her kind of about the light and dark, right? And I think the point that he's getting across here, or Ryan's intentions were that there's a lot of gray in between. And it's these images kind of make the balance and the Force thing a more complicated conversation, because there she says balance. She sees peace. She sees strife or whatever it is. And oh gosh, okay, I've got to talk about this shot for a second because the dialogue with this shot, her standing behind her, seems a little uncomfortable to me. And I don't want to say that my mind is in the gutter, but when he's saying something like feel it inside of you and he's standing behind her, Rey, like that, like, did Ryan not think that maybe this isn't the best blocking choice? I don't know. It definitely took me out of the moment when I first... Yeah, so Kevin's in LA. That's awesome, dude. Wow, that must have been like a dream come true. I lived with, when I was in LA, my neighbor was in the 501st Legion, and I would see him outside on the patio, like polishing his armor from time to time. It's pretty cool. Alright, so the darkness is calling Rey. Luke's freaking out. And by the way, according to The Rise of Skywalker, Luke knows at this point that she is a Palpatine. So, I don't think he's surprised that she's going towards the dark. I think his surprise here is how quickly she goes to the dark. Peter also says, I hate the blocking for the scene. Yeah, it's really poor blocking choice, especially given the dialogue. Terry says, okay, so the Force can just do anything now, even transport material things across the galaxy. I don't think so. Transport material things. What things? Are you referring to when Luke Force projects himself? Oh, you're referring to Force timing. Yeah. Well, Terry, let me push back just a little bit. Because they're not transporting themselves. They're projecting themselves. So it's almost like a Jedi mind trick across the galaxy. And it's important to clarify, too, that it takes a whole lot of energy to do that. Which is why Kylo says it would kill you to do this. Which is why he knows something is up. It's either Snoke or it's because of their Force dyad sort of thing. Billy Lord looks so cute here. It's funny because Carrie Fisher was like, okay, I'll come back and do Star Wars if my daughter can be in it too. And JJ was like, alright, that's fine. Alright, so Rose and Finn. Oh, that scene was like 2 seconds long. We're back on Octu again. And there's a Porg. Hilarious! There's a Porg chewing up the seat. So funny. Okay, here comes another Force timing session, Terry. Close your eyes. I like this one too because of the whole water thing. And I didn't really catch it the first time. But because it's raining where she's at, the rain is showing up on him. So I guess you're kind of right, Terry. There is an element of material stuff being transferred here. Murderous snake. Yeah. I just saw your comment, Terry. You're so right, dude. Kevin says, but lightsabers can go across the galaxy. I'm not sure what moment you're referring to. Oh, yeah. The necklace in The Rise of Skywalker. Dude, I love that moment. I mean, I like Rise of Skywalker, and you guys already know that. But so I'm gonna try to save a lot of that for next Tuesday. But I love that moment when he rips the necklace off of her chest. It's like, I don't want to. It's like sexy in a weird way. Does that make me a creep? I don't know. There's something about their intimacy, and again, these two actors have great chemistry with one another. But there's like 3 pivotal moments in the film where they make physical contact, which have a huge impact on the story. Alright, so they've got to go find the code breaker because Maz Kanata was like, yo, you're not able to get onto that Star Destroyer without a legit code breaker. Here's Canto Bight. So many things to be said about Canto Bight. Caleb, yeah, okay, thanks. You like the Force dyad idea. I kind of like it too. People want a donation for it, but I don't require that, so I think it's easier. Calvin says I'm a creep. Fair enough, bro. Fair enough. Alright, so this character here that tells the police about the ship is voiced by none other than Joseph Gordon-Levitt, y'all, from 10 Things I Hate About You and Angels in the Outfield. Okay, so here's the shot. Peter was telling me just earlier today that this dolly shot here of the camera going across the tables is an homage to the film Wings, which is the first motion picture to win Best Picture at the Oscars back in 1927. So Rian Johnson, he's a big film nut. He's a cinephile. So a lot of stuff in this movie actually has influences from stuff like Wings, from what's that Cary Grant film, Caught to Catch a Thief? Japanese films, but hey, like the slot machine stuff, and this gag here where apparently this alien that confuses BB-8 with a slot machine is voiced by Mark Hamill, P.S. But it's a very, very dad-typey joke. It's like the 3PO in Attack of the Clones joke, you know, I'm quite beside myself sort of stuff. Calvin says, worthless scene. Caleb says, I do enjoy the Force time because they show, rather than tell or explain, some kind of build-up connection. Good point, Caleb. Yeah, we want to see, we don't want to be told that they have a connection, for sure. Alright, so now they're out here watching the Fathiers. That is the name for these little space horses. The Fathiers. Finn loves the place, Rose doesn't. Rose has this terrible line coming up about how she wants to punch the whole place with her fists. She's like, look through the telescope, you'll see that there's all these little animal abuse. And like, I'm not trying to belittle abuse. I hope that's not coming across here. It's just very on the nose, which Rian Johnson tends to do with his commentaries on stuff. It's just too on the nose that it doesn't become effective. Look at all these background. Speaking of background acting, man, those poor Fathier slaves. I know it is also funny, and the internet has made fun of this a lot, that they rescue the Fathiers, but they don't rescue any of the children. It's like, okay, you're trying to make a point, but then you also like failed in doing so. But yeah, like I don't need to see the Star Wars equivalent of a tuxedo or there's Justin Theroux. So the Codebreaker, in case y'all didn't know, is Justin Theroux, the once husband of Jennifer Aniston. I think they broke up now. And then, what else? He was in all kinds of stuff. Parks and Rec is what I always think of him in. Okay, the cops found him. Man, there's so much going on in this Cano Bite scene that I could tell you about. Apparently, Carrie Fisher's dog is in here somewhere. Gary Fisher? If you guys don't know about Gary Fisher yet, you should look him up. He's some sort of bull terrier, maybe? I don't know. But he's always got his tongue sticking out. It's pretty hilarious. Yeah, Cano Bite. We'll wait to talk about more of that when we get back. Because there's that really long chase scene that should have been cut down even more. Apparently it was longer, and Ryan cut it. But back to Rey. Rey is kind of practicing here with her lightsaber, and thus, I believe, begins her second lesson here shortly. It's odd that Luke isn't here kind of like training her. The 2 lessons that Luke gives Rey are not physical in nature. Whereas in Empire Strikes Back, what was so fun about Luke's training is that he's jumping around. He's breaking a sweat. He's got Yoda on his backpack, you know. And we don't see that. We don't have the opportunity to see Luke be that kind of master. So, yeah. Kevin, ooh, nice Easter. The Codebreaker is dressed like Indian Temple of Doom. Get it? That's funny, Kevin. I do like this joke, though. I know that we've been bashing the humor, but that joke makes me laugh. I just like the caretakers. I ain't gonna apologize. They're funny to me. Alright, so she's going to climb up those steps. Lesson 2, which is basically that ruined everything. There it is. The lesson is the legacy of the Jedi is failure. And again, I don't necessarily mind him having a bit of a curmudgeon-y moment or first act in this story. But I think it's just that Luke is in this state for so long then we only get hero Luke for a brief scene before he dies. Kelvin, rude. Mary Sue's don't need physical training. I'm just going to leave that there. See, I want to see more of Luke talking about Han. If we're not going to be able to see him with his best friends, at least let him talk about his best friends. Alright, so here's where the conversation really turns to more about Kylo. Because I don't think Rey originally intended to talk about Kylo Ren to Luke. I mean, she just wants to be trained. And now Luke's getting distracted. He's supposed to be teaching her about the Jedi being failures. And I guess this is part of it. So now we have a flashback scene. Which a flashback scene is something that we've never really seen in Star Wars before. And we'll see this scene play out three different ways. We get Luke's version, we'll get Kylo's version, and then we'll get probably the real version. So here's the temple being burned. Alright, Terry, I will push back on this one thing while we're talking about Rey, because y'all know that I actually love Rey. She grew up wielding that staff and fighting for her life on Jakku. So she already has, in a sense, been trained to use a weapon of that sort. So I'm not bothered with her being good at a lightsaber sort of thing. That said, I would like to see a real training session between the two of them here. Look at the lighting on her face. I think this is lighting. Leah, is this Rembrandt lighting? Might see, my wife's a photographer and she would know. When you have the light really bright on one side of the face and in shadow on the other, it's a cool thing. Look at Mark act, though. I think he's a pretty good actor. And bear in mind, Mark Hamill went on record multiple times saying to Rian Johnson that he fundamentally disagreed with the way that his character was going to be handled. So you got to give him props for committing 110%. And Rian actually says that he's very grateful that Mark did that and was such a trooper doing it. Kevin, missed opportunities. Yep. Kelvin is laughing on my... Good, man. This is fun, y'all. Oh, Kevin, so you do like Rey. Good, I'm glad I'm not the only one. Some complaints about the character, but I also feel like there's just so much nitpicking. It's like, y'all, this is a standard. This bar has been set that is unattainable. Go back and watch the prequels again and see how bad they are. Or for crying out loud, I was watching Rebels last night and I was like, these characters have all kinds of issues that people would gripe about if it was in a Star Wars feature film. Kelvin says when you're finished, you should have your wife do all these movies. First off, she would not do that. Second off, why do you want her to do that? Here's another thing that just seems too grounded in our reality. The cops. The cops sitting around playing cards. That is too close to home to me that it just doesn't feel right in the Star Wars universe. Terry says a stick compared to a laser sword, though? I buy it. I mean, when I did my stage combat, we trained with sword or sticks before we went to the swords. And you actually, I'm pretty sure that training. Before you move up to a sword, you have to start and practice with the stick for a while. And here's Benicio del Toro. Oh, his character's rough. So, that light. Talk about lens flare, y'all. Everybody giving JJ grief about his lens flare. There's a huge light behind Benicio del Toro that's just like... apparently, this role was offered to Joaquin Phoenix. And Joaquin was like, no thanks. So going back to our conversation earlier about who would say no to a Star Wars film, well, apparently Joaquin Phoenix would. Of course he would. I have so many problems with this character. I'll start out with just a couple. The stutter, why make that choice? As actors, half the battle is making interesting character choices. What's interesting about making the character stutter? I mean, are you just trying to give him, I don't get it. I just don't get it. To me, it's very distracting. Also, the name DJ, even though I guess it's never said on screen, it's not a very Star Wars name, and it goes back to Rian Johnson not really having a good grasp of striking the right tone for Star Wars. And then here's another problem. BB-8, like, how did he tie up the cops? Like, if we want to talk about characters kind of addressing the complaints about Rey doing unrealistic things, BB-8 does so many things in this movie that are like, what? How? It's very, very weird. Kelvin, I need to know the lighting and stuff. Oh, that's what you want, Leah. You know what, bro? I'll see what I can do. I'll see if I can get her to hop on. How many people would actually like this character? It'd been Joaquin Phoenix. I think I would like it more because I happen to love Joaquin. I mean, he's a weirdo. Don't get me wrong. And we get to see the fathers up close. Peter says the stutter worked for Kevin Spacey in The Usual Suspects. It threw off the other characters about his true intentions. That's a good point. I think also with that film, Spacey's character is a big part of that movie, right? Like, he arguably is that movie. So we had more time with this character. Oh, here's Broom Boy. Don't do it! Whereas with this character of DJ, we don't have much time with him. See, how does Broom Boy know what that means? I mean, if he's a kid that's been enslaved in these stables his whole life, is he going to have any concept of what the rebel insignia is? I don't get it. I don't get it. A movie also starring Benicio del Toro. Touche. The chin strap looks very grounded in our world and not in Star Wars. And here's the fathers. So they were a mix of CG and practical. When they were in the cage and you saw just their head, it was like a practical puppet animatronic effect. This is all CG. I mean, I think when the actors are on its back, the head is real. Like they're on like a blue hump of a back, blue screen type of hump. And this is just a bunch of ridiculous stuff. See, this is the sort of thing that reminds you of the prequels where it takes up a lot of time and it doesn't really do much for the plot. And this alien that's singing and has like, I don't know if there's supposed to be multiple boobs or if her costume is just made out of a bunch of balloons. And then like this teacup seems very grounded in our Earth and not Star Wars. And this whole store here, we have cakes, and this baker does not look Star Wars to me. Streets and the light fixtures. If any of you watched Phantom Menace with me, you might remember that they shot on location on a long street in Spain. But they digitally removed the light fixtures because they looked too grounded in our world. And I feel like they should have followed suit with that and gotten rid of these light fixtures. So it's little stuff like that. But it's tough. Don't get me wrong. It's hard to make a blockbuster film in Hollywood today. Like, if you're just a degree off, the whole thing is going to suffer. And I think there was a few degrees off in play. Poor Broom Boy. He's going to get punished so hard. Wouldn't the slave be sure to know something like the rebellion? I mean, Terry, maybe, but like, how are you going to have access to that information? That's my question. And like the Underground Railroad, I mean, maybe, I'll give you that. And that begs the question at the end of the movie when they are playing with their little toys of Luke Skywalker, like what's the equivalent of TV in the Star Wars universe? And I know that there is one because in the expanded universe, I remember there being like the HoloNet. I think that's what it was called. Any old EU fans watching at the moment? I'm pretty sure it was the HoloNet, and that's where people got their news. And like Palpatine would promote all his propaganda or stuff. So yeah, it's just a question of like, are you going to buy that these slave kids have access to the news? That's what it boils down to. All right, Fathier, go be free. I feel bad for some of the artists that worked on this film, though. Caleb, you're back. I didn't know you left. Sorry, bro. But I'm glad that you're back. There's one part in the documentary with the costume designer, and he goes, "Well, I don't really know what Ryan wants me to do for Canto Bight. I've never really done anything like this before." And you can sense his confusion because it's like a look that doesn't belong. And my heart went out to the guy when he was talking about it. I was like, see, he understands that this isn't right. And even Kathleen Kennedy at one point told him that it didn't feel right. So apparently it was worse than this. It felt even more grounded in our world. And Kathleen was like, no, you need to add some more to make it feel more grounded in the Star Wars world. So Caleb says, it was worth it, though, as he remembers the children in captivity. It's true. It's true. Come on, Finn. You would think you would remember being, torn from your family and forced into, slavery. You could kind of call the First Order that to a certain extent, right? All right, so back in Octo 2, Luke is finally connecting back in the Force, which is what kind of pulls Leia out of her coma. Yeah, Leia. Remember her? One of our legacy characters who's been asleep half this movie? Let's get her back into the game, shall we? And we're gonna Force time again. Okay. The fact that he's shirtless is a little weird. And where she's like, put a towel on. Wake up, Grandma. It's just like another choice confusing to me. A lot of the choices Ryan are confusing. And that's what I don't understand. Credit to Daisy Ridley, though. She's acting her heart out. And what's cool is all of this stuff, they had the other actor on set. So Daisy's on set with Adam. Adam is on set with Daisy when they're doing this. You can totally tell. And really it's what makes it work. Eric, hey, nice to see you, buddy. So glad you could join us. Words are hard. I'll give you a timestamp if anybody wants it. 1 hour, 12 minutes, 25 seconds. 1:12:26. We get to hear Kylo's version of that fateful night. Notice that Luke has his green lightsaber because that's what he had at the end of Return of the Jedi. And of course, in Kylo's Luke looks like he's demented. Whoa, woo, First Order is not slavery. Terry, dude, you know that the Empire enslaved Wookiees in order to build the Death Star. Actually, that might be expanded universe stuff. But they did enslave Wookiees, which was the whole point of Han saving Chewie in the first place. Shirtless Kylo is sexy. He's also like kind of sweaty or greased up. I don't really know. It's very odd. Just kidding. Awkward looking Kylo looks like it's his turn for the Xbox. That's hilarious. So she's going to go to the cave. I do kind of like this because it's similar to Luke in Empire when he goes into the cave under Dagobah. Terry, I love you, man. Always trying to plead your case for the Empire. I do, I get a sense that it's really cold down there. When she jumps in this water, ooh, and I like the bone under the water. A lot of this stuff is really striking visually. Did you guys know that the porgs were created because there were puffins all over and they didn't want to digitally erase the puffins, so they just mapped on a porg? Supposedly. That's what they tell me. Kylo must be on his TIE fighter. That's probably it. That's why he broke a sweat, right? We'll be ripping off poor citizens. You guys crack me up. Alright, so this is a cool image. I'm into this. It's not anything we've seen in Star Wars before. This mirror thing. But I like it. It's new territory that is interesting to me. Thoughts? The sound effects are really cool too. The snap. The lighting in here is really cool. See, you're right, Kelvin. I need to get my wife out here to talk about the lighting. The voiceover is a little strange. It's a little strange, but I can drink the Kool-Aid. It's interesting, of course, that she doesn't really get an answer. She sees one shadow. What is the question she asks here? I want to see my parents. And she sees two figures kind of walking towards her. But then it turns into one. So my theory is this one figure is in fact our good old buddy Palpatine. Because he's always pulling the strings. Caleb says, when your dad takes you to the men's warehouse because your uncle is getting married and you find the cool mirror. Yeah. The row of mirrors. The parents in the mirror remind me of Harry Potter. Yeah, that's the very first Potter film too, isn't it? Sorcerer's Stone, I think. Okay. Daisy's killing it here, man. And then this is a great scene. See, every time we see the two of them, their relationship builds a little bit more. Remember when they first started force timing and she literally tried to shoot his brains out? Well, now he's saying you're not alone, and she's buying it, y'all. And she's trying to be like, yo, you can join me. You don't have to keep going down this dark path. I love it. I'm telling you, these moments where they physically touch through the force timing, I think is really effective. And I'll talk about that a lot in Rise of Skywalker. But in this moment, this is the first time we see it, there's a beautiful little bit of sound design when their fingers touch. Look at that shot. Ooh, that's that really tight insert of their fingertips. They hot. I'm sorry. I think they're pretty. Look at that tear. This is a great scene, y'all. Sorry, Terry. It's cool, man. The turtle nuns after this scene must have been pissed. Yeah, the turtle nuns were probably really, really pissed at Luke for destroying that hut. Terry, how is it possible? Terry, you can't ask for an explanation with the Force, man. You know that. We see all kinds of crazy stuff happen in the Force. Alright, so now we get to see Luke kind of fight her. At the moment, they're just using these two sticks, right? I think Mark did a decent chunk of this. Awesome. Cheater. See, Rey totally cheats in that moment because he's fighting with a stick and she pulls out the lightsaber. What's he supposed to do? Like, throw her off the cliff? Of course he could, but like, then we don't have a very good story. Alright, so here's the final time that we get to see the flashback of when Luke comes in. And this is important because he says here that he sees the darkness beyond anything he could imagine, and then for a split second he almost does something tragic. Briefest moment of pure instinct. That is the line I need to highlight for people. Briefest moment of pure instinct. Past. See, a lot of people that get really upset about this they're like, there's no way Luke would ever do anything wrong. He he had a moment. Briefest moment of pure instinct, and then he realized he was wrong. It works for me. Now, like I've said, I don't like the handling of Luke overall in the movie, but I buy that. I wish he would have come back to the good side sooner, though, and been the Luke that we know and love. Turtle nuns! Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle nuns! Reminds me of Camino at this part. Oh, on the rain! You're right, Caleb. I love the rain. So Rey's convinced she's going to go and convert? Yeah. Get Kylo to fight for them. Terry says, all magic systems need rules. Bro, I play D&D, which completely deals with imagination, where anything is possible, and it has rules. That's fair. No, you need to have rules for it. How defined do those rules need to be, I suppose, is the question. Like, let me ask you this. When Luke, or anybody for that matter, pulls a lightsaber into their hand, how is that possible? Because if we want to get into the explanation of all these things that the Force can do, I feel like we'd be playing that game for a long time. We'll get back to that maybe. But now we're going to talk about Yoda. When the camera passed behind Yoda's head, I was like, no, that's awesome. I was pretty excited for this scene. Alright, let's talk about his design. So, when Rian Johnson decided that he wanted to use Yoda in this movie, they went back and they got the original cast that they used in Empire Strikes Back to create the puppet. What they failed to realize, from what I understand, I've only one source, but last minute on this set of Empire, they changed the way that his mouth looks, like the mandible. And when they did The Last Jedi, they didn't realize that they needed to change the mouth because it looks very Cabbage Patchy and puffy, but the top of the Yoda head looks good. So anytime, like in this shot where Yoda's looking down and giggling, that looks pretty spot on compared to the Empire Strikes Back Yoda version. Again, if you guys come in and you want a timestamp, ask for it. I'll give you one again here now. 1 hour, 30 minutes, 47 seconds. This is the shot of the iron going down onto Kylo's clothes. An iron that looks like it was maybe supposed to be a spaceship. Again, very prequel era type of comedy. Thank you, dear. You're the best. Plug that guy back in there. Ah, yay. So glad that we all got back on board here, I think. Yay, hey, no worries. Thanks, guys. Yeah, that was strange. Very strange. Hopefully everybody get back on. Okay, so here we have Evil BB-8, which apparently that was supposed to be a much bigger subplot, too, is that the real BB-8 is underneath that trash can wandering around, and Evil BB-8 figures it out. There was a lot of deleted scenes, or a lot of scenes that were cut here and have now been deleted. So, elevator sequence with our two lovers. I'm going to just call them lovers from here on out. They are seeing each other face to face for the first time since, Kylo stabbed his dad in the chest. The lighting in here is super cool too. Maybe this will be a good thing to restart, because then it'll annoy other people and they'll be like, oh, he's starting a brand new thing that's not Star Wars. Haha, just kidding, it's more Star Wars. It would have been kind of interesting to see if Rey and Kylo just decided to go off on their own and start something new. I mean, I'll admit it, when I saw this movie for the first time and Kylo says, join me, and he reaches his hand out towards her, I was all like, do it. I was all on board with Rey joining Kylo. Alright, so this is very reminiscent of Return of the Jedi. Our hero being brought into the throne room. There's the Hugh Hefner type in his gold robe. And there was so one of the deleted scenes, I'm so glad they got rid of this, but it was going to be these three in an elevator with stormtroopers, and one of the stormtroopers recognizes Finn. So it's another moment where Ryan tries to trick his audience and be like suspenseful, right? But the trick is, nope, he thinks that Finn has just been promoted. And he's like, hey, good job, buddy. And the stormtrooper literally spanks Finn on the butt. I'm not making this stuff up, y'all. You don't believe me? Go and watch the deleted scene. It's on Disney Plus, and it is awful. And that is probably the worst joke in the whole thing. Luckily, it got cut, but it is similar to a lot of the complaints that we've been having about the comedy. Terry says yes, join the dark side. I know. I would have liked to. It would have been interesting. It would have been interesting to see a Rey Kylo thing where they're just doing their own thing. All right, we're back on the Raddus. By the way, the name of this Resistance ship is called the Raddus, which is dedicated to the character from Rogue One. If you remember, Raddus is the Mon Cal who looks kind of like Winston Churchill, because that's who he was based off of. 3PO's chickening out, and again, that is Anthony Daniels in the suit, the only actor who's been in every Star Wars movie. I think he was in Solo, but he wasn't playing 3PO. He's playing somebody else. And DJ has got them into turn the switch off on whatever this thing is. Looks like the flux capacitor, right? So we'll just call it that. Kelvin, the huge, mysterious, wicked emperor, which Rian Johnson kills without any answers. Kelvin says, gosh, that sounds awful. Oh, yeah, that scene. Dude, it's unbearable to watch, to be like, okay, first off, a stormtrooper would never do that to a superior officer. Why? Just a lot of why. Rey in a black outfit? Yowza. Dude, Terry, originally they were thinking of putting Rey in the similar costume to what Luke wears in Return of the Jedi. When the collar that like hangs down, that would have looked tight. All right, so here's Phasma, probably one of the characters who gets shafted the most in this trilogy. And this is being cut in between this Resistance stuff. So when Leia shows up again and she's like, Poe, I thought I taught you better. It's nice to see her in all white, even though she's got a bandage on her head. And Billy Lord's like, sorry, Mom. Alright, so all these shuttles are moving towards Crate. Yeah, and this scene is odd. Kevin Fox, I don't think he's still on here, but Kevin was talking about how strange it is to have these two leaders, Leia and Holdo, talk about how much they love Poe, because we don't get that. We get it from Leia. We don't really get it from Holdo throughout. And I guess we're supposed to feel sympathy for Holdo from this point on, but because we were so suspicious of her during the whole movie, it makes it really hard. And it makes this scene seem rather forced. Which is a bummer, because Carrie's doing really well, and again, love Laura Dern. It's just like, Ryan, you alienated this character from your audience from the beginning. Terry Bronson, high collar, corset with red lace, and cool mask. That would be cool. That would be cool. Yeah, Rey's easy to look at. She's like a leading female character that I would buy doing a lot of this physical activity. Whereas with Jyn Erso, I think I kind of mentioned to you guys when we were watching Rogue One, a lot of the stuff with her, I'm like, I don't know if I buy all of this. But I love Felicity Jones too. Don't get me wrong. If you haven't seen Like Crazy yet, you should watch it. It's amazing. Yeah, Phasma, there's a female antagonist that could rip my arms off. That girl is stacked. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff of Andy Serkis doing the mocap work for Snoke that's really cool. This stuff is cool, where he force pulls Rey towards his throne. See, and kind of going back to costume design stuff, in this movie she's wearing gray. She started in TFA wearing brown. She wears gray in here. And they end up going with white in Rise of Skywalker. But if they would have gone with black, that would have been cool too. Or you could give her a costume change halfway through the movie. Maybe she starts in black and then puts on white. Alright, so Snoke's being a jerk here. Look at that CGI though. I mean, he's freaky looking, right? But it looks pretty impressive. Like, you really get this sense that he's disgusting. In this moment when he's touching her face, he needs a manicure too, am I right? I hope everybody's caught up okay. If you need a timestamp, let me know. I shouted out a few, but I can do it again. Okay, all this stuff with Rey suspended up in the air, I mean, that's Daisy Ridley on a wire for a long amount of time. She had a stunt woman too, but I don't know. I mean, that is all Daisy there with her screaming. That's not easy to do, being suspended up in the air like that for extended periods of time. All right, Poe wakes up and realizes what's going on. This is a nice little scene because we do finally get to see that Leia is being like a mother figure to Poe. I think more of that would have been better. We got that she was disciplining him in the film. We just didn't always get that she was loving on him. You know? That's what we wanted to see. Carrie Fisher actually talks a lot about Oscar and the fun they had on set, and she kind of compares the Poe character to Han in a lot of ways, and how she thought about Han. Hey, William's here. Timestamp. I knew somebody needed one. Oh, and Stuart's here too. Guys, we are at 1 hour 40 minutes and 15 seconds. 1 hour 40 19. Haldo is about to do her maneuver. Oh, never mind. We're cutting to the troopers now. I realize there's a delay too, so even when I give you the timestamp, you gotta have to like add another 10 seconds. So in this scene where DJ shows up and reveals that he's betrayed them, two of these stormtroopers are Prince William and Harry. Didn't know that one until I did some online creeping. But yeah, apparently the Royal Bros were big fans, and of course they shot in London, so they just stopped by. And I don't know which stormtroopers they are. They're in here somewhere. I feel like the insult snake is overused in this movie, because Rey calls Kylo a murderous snake, and then Rose calls DJ a lying snake. It's an interesting choice. Yeah, there's Phasma. Gosh, her costume design is cool. So originally there was going to be a big moment between Finn and Phasma where Finn was like, I'm going to rat you out, Phasma. I'm going to tell everybody about how you told us how to blow up Starkiller Base. And that all got cut. Uh-oh. And now the Resistance has discovered that the First Order actually knows what's going on. And Haldo's going to be the hero. Haldo's going to fill in the shoes that Admiral Akbar should have been in, darn it. Alright, what's going on here? Kelvin, if you bridge their minds, then why was Palpatine surprised about it when they are together in front of him? I don't think Palpatine was surprised. The reason Palpatine is surprised in The Rise of Skywalker is because he didn't realize there was a Force dyad. And my thought is that he wasn't able to realize that until they were physically in the same space as him. That's what I'm going with. I think that flies. I mean, you have to have poor dental hygiene. Gosh. Good point, Terry. Snoke, who's your dentist, man? So this, again, is very similar to Return of the Jedi when the Emperor takes Luke over the window and he's like, hey, look, I'm killing all your friends. I'm already like getting hyped because I know the big battle scene's coming up. This is cool to see Rey use the Kylo Ren saber. Still love that saber design too. And Snoke's just kind of having his way with her. And Kylo doesn't even budge. Adam does a really good job here of just kind of like watching this play out. Like I get the sense that he's toying with the idea of going a certain way. Does he kill Snoke? Does he side with Rey? Or does he kill Rey? Don't do it. Don't do it, Kylo. Of course, that's a callback to The Force Awakens when he says, I know what I have to do, right before he stabs his dad in the chest. This is an interesting choice to have Snoke say these things and Kylo doing them. I mean, I guess it makes sense because people would be like, well, why didn't Snoke realize? So you kind of have to show that Kylo is fooling Snoke at this point. That was a big shock too, man. I mean, Ryan made the choice to just go with everything that would be opposite. And you guys probably already know, not a huge fan of that necessarily, but it certainly kept me on the edge of my seat when I was first watching this. Kurt, thanks for saying hi, buddy. Even if you're not a fan, I'm definitely happy to have people stop by. I love this fight. Starts in slow motion. Dude, I always wanted to see the Imperial Guards fight. So the fact that we got to see these dudes fight was super fulfilling. And it's really interesting. There's a lot of cool choreography in it. I'll point out the continuity error though when it pulls up. And cut to our heroes yelling more name calling against DJ. Just business. See you later. What's up, Doc? He's a very strange character. So the way that the camera moves about the room here during this fight is super cool. So it's not this combatant that Rey is fighting with the chain thing. It's the next one with the two swords. Yeah, this one. So there's a continuity error here where one of the swords suddenly disappears, which allows Rey to actually kill the guard. Come here, cat. My cat's trying to get up here. Will says he loves this fight too. Yeah! That one when the guard gets thrown down in that shredder thing? That's fun. Adam Driver looking totally awesome. Okay, so she gets sliced on the shoulder. I don't want to miss it, but it's not quite here. That gash on her shoulder is pretty wicked. Alright, it's coming up soon. So pretty much when the guard has the two swords, at one point she pulls one under her stomach, and when the hand comes out the other end, the sword is gone. Right now I'm seeing Kylo get choked. Yeah, here. So, yep, the sword is suddenly gone. But the cool thing is the way that Rey drops her own saber into her hand like that. I love that. And this is another cool fight choreography thing. Straight through the skull. I mean, it's just fun. Like, even with the continuity error, it's just like a good time. Kelvin says, how do they see? I don't know, man. Good question. Question I don't spend a lot of time dwelling on. Terry says, interesting note, Kylo Saber would be giving off dark side energy. What is that because of the crystal? This is such a beautiful shot. I love the stuff on fire on the ground and all these little flames, all these little pieces of cinder dropping. See, this is the moment, y'all. When he says, I want you to join me, I was in the theaters literally like, Ray, maybe you should. And here comes the bomb about the truth. Kevin, you're not wrong. There are a couple times in the scene where they do the whole I will wait until my turn to run in and fight bit. You're not wrong. Alright, so as tears are dripping down her face and sweat is dripping down his face, he says, your parents were nobodies. So Ryan talks a lot about this on the documentary. And again, I'm going to talk about like character choices and writing choices. So you always want to go with the strongest choice, right? And Ryan was of the belief that he didn't go for strongest choice as much as he did for difficult. And he says, I wrote down every character's name and I wrote down what would be most difficult for them. That's fair. But he didn't like the idea of Rey being related to somebody, like a legacy character, because it would be a wish fulfillment thing. And that's where I'm like, dude, I think a lot of Star Wars is about wish fulfillment. We who are fans want to see these connective things. We want to put ourselves in these shoes. We want to be these Jedi. We want to be a Skywalker. So I think, even though it might not have been as difficult, I think the stronger choice might have been something else. And of course, J.J. Abrams pretty much retconned that in Rise of Skywalker anyway. Which is why I like Rise of Skywalker. But we'll get to that later. Kelvin says, I just didn't like Snoke being killed off so fast and easy with no answers. Fair enough. Caleb says his anger is well acted out with frustration and the sudden yells. I mean, Adam Driver is just gold. She goes for her lightsaber. I like this bit here where they're both struggling with the Force to take Anakin and Luke's saber, which of course means so much to Kylo because that's his family heritage there. Phasma comes in for her 1 second of fame. I love that they're like, let's make this hurt and slowly decapitate them on the hangar bay floor. Someone's head is gonna roll. Alright, so Haldo is finally now gonna do her thing. Didn't I say 10 minutes ago that I think it's happening now? I gotta say, so putting all the internet noise aside for a second, and even though I don't love Haldo as a character, I thought this had a huge impact. No pun intended. But I really liked the idea of sending a ship through hyperspace to blow up the other ship. And I know, the internet loves to be like, well, why doesn't everybody do that? I'm not going to get in that debate. I'm just going to say it's a really cool look, and it's a fun idea. And the sound design, or should I say lack thereof, is an interesting choice too. Because there's no sound here. That light is really visually striking. And I remember in the theaters hearing like an audible gasp from the crowd watching the movie. So it definitely had an impact. Now, if that's something that you want to get upset about because it like doesn't make sense logically, maybe I'll need to do something better with your time. I'm just kidding. You're entitled to your opinion. All right, Kevin, was her dad a clone of Palpatine? Yes, Kevin. Rey's dad was a clone who misbehaved and ran off to do his own thing. Yes to that. That's why Palpy had him killed. So if he was a biologist, that means Palpatine would have gotten busy, which he did not after he was Emperor in Scar. Yeah, a lot of that stuff is addressed in the novelization. And I get people don't want to have to read ancillary material to understand a movie. That's fair. It's just you only got so much time in a 2.5 hour movie where you weren't set up to write a very good third act in the trilogy anyway. which is why I give JJ a lot of grace, because knew he wasn't set up well. He was dealt a bad hand. This is what bugs me about BB-8. Like, he captured those cops and tied them up together, and now he's like commandeering a chicken walker and driving it. I don't understand. It's very weird. William says he has no problem with the Lightspeed wreck. I agree. I think it's rather fun. It could have been maybe better with a different character doing it, one that we actually liked, but I love the wreck itself. Kelvin says should have been Akbar, would have had much more emotional and thrilling at the same time. Yeah. The only thing, like, I know I would love Akbar in that role, but would like the mainstream audience, because Kelvin, you and I love Akbar because we know him from the original trilogy. But do most people? I guess if you made him a bigger character in this movie and then you killed him off during the maneuver, that would work. So Phasma, yeah, the whole scene that got cut was basically Finn being like, hey everybody, you should have seen her on Starkiller Base. She gave you all away. And I believe he even refers to her as a whoop dog. I don't know what's up with the way Ryan writes insults in this, but a whoop dog is a very weird choice. Doesn't matter, the scene got cut. Poor Phasma dies like a schmuck anyway. At least we get to see her eyeball for a hot second, I guess. But, poor Gwendolyn Christie, that's all I gotta say. Terry says, because it would kill everyone on board, you idiots. Terry, do you mean everybody on board like the First Order ship? Doesn't it kind of depend on the size of the ship? Because the Radis was a rather smaller ship compared to the Supremacy. The Supremacy is Snoke's ship, and it's huge. There we get a nice close-up shot of Snoke's face and his bottom half falling to the floor. And Hux almost kills Kylo. I love that second. Peter Tripp. Akbar loves a good trap. Good one. Good one, bro. I love that bit, though, where Hux almost shoots Kylo while he's down. It's really unclear, though, how Rey escaped this Star Destroyer. Also, these lines of dialogue here make no sense. Our Supreme Leader is dead. We have no ruler. Then he gets force choked. Kylo says the Supreme Leader is dead. And Hux says, long live the Supreme Leader? Like, that exchange doesn't make any sense. I don't know how Ryan sat in the editing room, watched those lines of dialogue play out. I love the look of Carrie Fisher with that collar up above her face. This costume is very cool on Crate. Terry says both ships. Maybe. These crystal critters are kind of cool. The original thought was that they were going to essentially dress dogs in those crystal type costumes, right? And there's footage of them trying that. They've got like these greyhounds in these crystal costumes and they're just running around. But in the end, I guess it didn't look right, so they cut it and they made the little crystal guys completely digital. Alright, they allowed one First Order ship to come in somehow. Oh, look, who is it? It's people that we know. Isn't that convenient? Oscar's is great, though. So a lot of this stuff inside of the hangar, of course, is probably studio stuff. But the Salt Flat stuff was shot, a good amount of it on location in Bolivia. Is that what I said? Yeah, Bolivia. Because they wanted to, be able to get the salt to look right, and there was red soil underneath. A lot of the explosions they couldn't do on location, but they rebuilt stuff on the back lot and did a lot of the explosions and stuff there. Cameron, what's up, buddy? Thanks for joining, man, for a little bit. Does Rey finally get a somewhat normal haircut now? Her little flip has died down. She doesn't look quite as stupid. Did I say Rey? I meant Rose. Poor Rose. So they got some Death Star tech going on here. I don't mind the idea that Death Star tech continues to advance throughout the galaxy. I know some people have a problem with that too, but I feel like it kind of makes sense that technology would continue to build upon itself, right? Terry says, dumb scene. Which one? There's a lot of scenes. I know I'm ahead of you guys, so that makes the comments thread a little bit harder to track sometimes. Finn got a new jacket. Oh, that's the First Order jacket that he took. Yay, Rose. I keep calling her Rey. Rose. Her name is Rose. So, but some of these actors here in the trenches are either Mark Hamill's kids or people who worked on other movies. Like, the director of Rogue One has a little line here about salt. This older guy just passed away from coronavirus. Gareth Edwards is on the left of the guy without the helmet. The guy without the helmet is the director of Rogue One. He snuck in there. But yeah, that actor who stood up and had binoculars or whatever, he died of corona like a couple weeks ago. Blew my mind. Alright, so here we are with the little... Peter says Mark Hamill has a lot of kids. My wife Leah had a chance to meet Nathan Hamill out in L.A. They were at a party together. And get this, it was a costume party, and Leah was wearing a Princess Leia costume. So they talked about Star Wars for a while. Alright, so these skimmers, or ski cruisers, or whatever they're called, they're kind of funny. I know Terry doesn't like them. But what I like the most is that they leave that red streak in the soil. See, that's just a cool shot of all the little skimmers heading towards the walkers. Kevin Fox says, thank God Rose wasn't in Independence. Russell from ramming the alien ship at the end. Yeah, man. I don't understand. I feel like it would have been kind of a nice thing to have Finn go out with the sacrifice. And girl just got a crush. She's got a cute little crush. So these walkers, Ryan calls them gorilla walkers. I know that's not the proper name of them, but it makes sense because they're like on their fists. So I'm going with gorilla walkers. I think they look tight. I really like them. And the sound effect that they used for them was a lot of the original Ben Burt audio that he used for the walkers in Empire. But they added a little bit of a lion growl. I don't know if we'll be able to hear it clearly at any point, but yeah, the sound designer went out and picked up a lot of audio stuff from various zoo animals. Probably at Joe Exotic Zoo. That was a joke. Caleb says, I like Crate, but man, the end of this entire sequence on Crate is bad. Ooh. What? Is it the Luke Skywalker stuff? Terry says walkers versus speeders. Speeders lose. Bro, the same thing happened at the Battle of Hoth, though. It was speeders versus walkers. I mean, I'm not saying their chances are good. Don't get me wrong. Oh, this is a comedic line that works really well. When the Falcon finally shows up and there's a Porg on board for some reason. Again, not sure how Rey reconnected with Chewie. I guess Finn must have already said the line. I think I missed it when he says, "Oh, they hate that ship." It's a great line. But yeah, Ryan did not do a very good job of communicating to his audience how Rey left the Star Destroyer and how she got back with Chewie. And not enough Chewie, darn it. I think we can all agree there needs to be more Chewie everywhere. Oh, there's the line. Oh, they hate that ship. Terry says no on Hoth, the Empire won. No, I know. I'm agreeing with you with that. I know the Empire won, but like they both made the same mistake. Okay, so this bit where they're driving through this small tight cabin was inspired by the ride. What's the name of the ride? Star Tours. So when Ryan was a kid and he went on the original Star Tours before it got revamped, there was kind of an end sequence where they went through a weird crystal star or something. And so he decided he wanted to kind of use the whole crystal tight space for that sequence, I guess. And of course now in Star Tours, that sequence is in the ride. So it kind of went full circle. Oh, Caleb says the Rose and Finn stuff. Yeah, it's real bad. It's real bad. Kevin, this movie really hurts. I know you're a big fan too, Kevin, so it's interesting to get your perspective on stuff. Yeah, it's on the bottom of the list for sure. I like it better than prequels, but not by much. It's like prequels and then Last Jedi for me. Yeah, that's a good point, Terry. I don't know. Maybe the rebellion needs to invest in some walkers. Why do they always... I guess the only benefit to having a speeder is the agility of a speeder versus a walker, right? The walkers don't really move very fast. But here they're coming from such a far location. Yeah, it doesn't work so well. And at this point, Poe was like, guys, this isn't working so well. Let's move. Let's turn around. But let Finn be a suicide bomber. Let him take it out. He can redeem himself for all that Canto Bight stuff we had to sit through. Also, like, how does Rose make that trajectory? That's a really crazy angle. See her skimmer? I don't even see her skimmer anywhere near his. Kevin says, why couldn't Luke be there? That goes back to my complaint about, let's have Luke, our hero Luke, come back to the story sooner in this story instead of just the very last little bit. I'm with you, Kev. I'm with you. I call you Kev like I should do that. Sorry, man. See, this is a really kind of beautiful bit with the music and the light, and then I was like, oh, Finn, we're going to lose Finn. I was like sad, but okay with it because it made sense and it was nice to see him go out in a blaze of glory. And then out of nowhere, oh, it's so bad. And I'm not blaming Kelly at all. Love Kelly, but the dialogue. What does she say to him? She like calls him dummy. I think that's what she says. Kelvin says I like the prequels better because of Obi-Wan. He continues and says sequels, Luke is not as good as prequels be. Debatable. I gotta watch this line. I saved you, dummy. It's... See, and this is confusing. She says we're not going to win by fighting what we hate. But earlier in the movie, when they're at Canto Bight, she expresses the desire to punch everybody in that whole town. So it's like, are you wanting to use violence? You are in a war here, Rose. So a lot of the stuff you're saying isn't making any sense. And then you kiss the guy, and that's kind of out of nowhere. Just a gross mishandling across the board. Very, very sad. All right, back to the comments here. Kevin, JJ promised Mark some action when they were discussing the sequels. What a jip. Yeah. Terry, the walkers are so deadly at range it doesn't matter. Once the distance is closed after sustained bombardment, you let the storm. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, the dialogue, Caleb, so bad. So bad. It's like the only romance that the only kiss that they've given us so far is between two characters that nobody is like buying into. At least I got my Reylo kiss. I can't wait to hear all the hate that I'm going to get from liking T-Ross. It's going to be so fun. All right, so this is important stuff coming up. Nobody responded to their call, which is weird because, hello, Lando's got to be out there somewhere. And here comes Luke. Now, here's an interesting thing because originally Luke wasn't going to communicate with 3PO at all. And I don't think he does on the way in, but on the way out, Mark was like, Ryan, if you give me anything at all, please let me acknowledge 3PO's presence. And that just illustrates so perfectly how Ryan doesn't get these characters. Alright, so this line about the thing was something that Carrie ad-libbed. And Mark's like, Good old Carrie. That's definitely a moment where we see Carrie coming out in her performance as Leia. I like this scene. It's good to see the two of them back together again. It's tough to watch again because she's gone and she's saying things like, "This is the end." And she seems more comfortable with Mark than when she's with other actors. It's getting me in the feels, y'all. To see space twins. Hate, love, save it, oh, blah. Kevin says Rey and Kylo are related. I'm trying to stay in this beautiful moment, and you guys are still making me laugh about previous stuff. Again, a force projection making physical connection across the galaxy. I know Terry doesn't like that, but I love this bit. We get to say goodbye to Leia. And here's where Luke winks at 3PO. Like, that's all that Ryan would give the character. I can just imagine Mark being on set, being like, "Ryan, I am willing to do so much for you to bring your version of Luke Skywalker to screen, but let me just at least wink at 3PO, show that I acknowledge his presence." All right, here it comes, y'all. Here's his moment to shine. And this brings up an interesting conversation about how do we display power in the Force. Think about that while I read some of these comments and like what Luke is doing here. It's a Force projection. Luke couldn't even say goodbye to his twin sister in person. Sorry, man. I don't know what to tell you there. Maybe they should have traded out the rose kiss scene for the slap butt scene. Oh, you guys are killing me. These are hilarious comments. So one thing that Ryan talks about in the documentary is, you know, how do you display greatness in the Force? And that's tricky. Like, you could have Luke like bring down a moon, pull like Thanos style, or pulling a ship into another ship. But I like it as something new. I don't have a problem with the Force projection. I don't even have a problem with Luke necessarily dying because he has to do it. It's been established that it takes a great amount of energy to do something like this. My issue is that it happened too soon in his arc. We don't have the hero Luke that we want. You could do this in the third movie. Or it out all three movies a little bit better. You could have it at the end of the second movie, but then we would have had more time in the first and the second movie to see classic Luke. More! Kylo, he's such a little baby. Caleb, combine the scenes. Oh, that's terrible. So this is another moment where, like, in theaters, when you see this for the first time, your mind is kind of like, whoa. So if Ryan's objective was to, you know, keep the audience on the edge of their seats, I think he accomplished that to a certain extent with a lot of the stuff that happens here. As far as like repeat viewing, though, it's tough because once the surprise is gone, it never is quite the same. And then you also have to ask questions like, was that a justified surprise? Whereas, like, I think the stuff like this seems to work, but stuff like Haldo actually being good and not a First Order mole doesn't really seem justified. I also think it's funny that Luke no longer has the gray hair, and Mark Hamill looks like he just dyed it from a Just for Men gel packet. And somehow Poe knows that Luke is doing this to help them. Wouldn't it make more sense to have Leia come to that realization because she has a Force connection to her brother? Probably. Terry says, how sad for Mark to get his first acting job in forever, and this is all he gets. Hey man, that guy has so much work with Joker, with voiceover work, with the Joker. He'll be set for the rest of his life. Alright, Kylo. By the way, the red salt, red sand, I think it's actually soil underneath the salt layer. That was created by dyeing paper shreds. I guess they tried a lot of stuff like ice and plastic, and they eventually went with paper. And here's poor Oscar Isaac trying his best to make this spark fire dialogue work. Kevin, why does he have Anakin's lightsaber? He should have the Jedi green saber. I mean, I think the choice that Ryan made was, let's give him the blue lightsaber so people can maybe piece together that it's a projection, because obviously that saber is now broken, because we saw that happen in the duel. So, like, Ryan tried to do other things, like, you'll see that he doesn't leave a footprint, so Ryan wanted to, like, leave little clues to his little trickery, but, yeah, it would have made more sense with a green saber. No footprints. Peter's talking about that moment right there. Terry says, oh, by the way, Mark, you're the most important part of the original films, but you have to die pretty quickly. Yep. Superman, he did his job and he didn't complain about it. I understand that as an actor, having to sometimes perform roles that you're like, I don't want to do this, but my director wants me to, and I'm getting paid. Sometimes I'm not even getting paid. Hasn't had it since Empire Strikes Back. Yeah, you're right, Kevin. That makes even more sense from a storytelling standpoint. If you're following Luke's timeline, he probably wouldn't use a blue lightsaber. Yep. Fair point. Fair point. Again, Ryan not really getting Star Wars. All right, so the Crystal Critters found their way out and have led the Resistance to the rocks. Daisy Ridley. It's also funny to see Mark or Luke Skywalker wearing a brown glove. Okay, so here's the bit with the salt footprint. And there's a move here, there's a very Matrix-type Neo move where Luke does the bend backwards thing that I was always kind of like, that seems odd. Of course, it makes sense now. It's also strange because, okay, if he is able to make physical contact because he kissed his sister goodbye, why doesn't he allow these blades to cross? I guess that could be justified by saying, well, every time he makes contact, he's using more and more energy and he's already wearing himself out. Man, does Kylo hate that guy. We still never knew how Maz got the blue saber, correct? A story for another time. Kevin, you're so salty. Saltier than Crate. That's a thread on Reddit for all of you who are big haters of the sequel trilogy. There's a Reddit thread called Saltier Than Crate, which I thought was a really funny, clever name, but I disagree with a lot of the stuff that's said on there. And this is weird that Luke says, I will not be the last Jedi, because in the documentary, Ryan says again and again and again how Luke is the last Jedi. Luke is the last Jedi. The title of the film is about Luke. But then we have this line to indicate that Rey is going to continue with the Jedi religion. Finn gets to meet up with his girl again, even though... See, I like the idea that Finn loves Rey, but Rey is like, you're in the friend zone. And that didn't continue in T-Ross. I think in T-Ross, they came down to like level friend zone, I guess. Terry, who directs the next film? JJ comes back. I can't believe you haven't seen that one yet, man. Yeah, it's really jarring because we go from JJ to Ryan back to JJ again. But I like JJ, so take that for what it's worth, y'all. Mark. And here I thought, like, oh wow, he just cut Luke Skywalker in half. Like this was a big shocking moment when we see this for the first time in theaters. It's like, what is happening right now? It's cool. I think the force projection thing is cool. He slowly just stabs him in the chest, and Kylo's like, "You're not even here." I'm here. Kelvin, would you like George Lucas to have more say in the sequels or even direct them? Kelvin, the answer to your question is no. For some reason, people are all of a sudden like, George Lucas is the only one to be able to do this, and they've completely forgotten the prequels. And I know that you've mentioned that you like the prequels more, but if you guys have been following my commentaries, I don't. I think they're really boring. And even though this movie is not good, in my opinion, it's still interesting, and the prequels are just boring. Also, side note, a lot of things about this movie were from George Lucas's treatments. Luke being isolated on an island was straight from GL, and the female protagonist was also a GL that he wrote in his treatments when he sold the company to Disney. Terry, first watch through with you, buddy. First watch through with me? Is this the first watch? You've been with me for the other movies, Terry, haven't you? Terry, but that's how you achieve eternal life. You must die first. I'm lost. I don't know what you're talking about, bro. So, Luke has his last final moments. This is them trying to give him a proper send-off. We got the binary sunset, because apparently Octu is another planet that has two suns. It's nice. It's nice to hear the John Williams theme. I like the way that Mark looks with his old gray hair look. Yeah. I mean, I've already said it before, so I'll just say it one more time. Would have liked to have more hero Luke in it before he finally got cut. That's a cool shot. Okay, so that above shot where Kylo and the troopers are coming in is a callback to Revenge of the Sith when Anakin comes in with the clones to the Jedi Temple. Both of them are from above crane type shot, so that's pretty neat. Kylo's in this room where his mother and friends, well, not friends, really just his mother were, and they have their last Force time. I forgot about this one. He's looking up. Hey girl, hey bae. And she go, I'm gonna shut the door on you. And with the dice, it's a very interesting thing to fixate on. By the way, Daisy Ridley had to turn down the role of Lara Croft when she took this role. Okay, so here we are back on the Millennium Falcon with all our heroes. Yay, we get a hug between Chewie and Leia. And then the worst part is that we're just now seeing the two of them meet. You guys are going to get in all kinds of shenanigans in the next movie and disagreements. Okay, so we see the Jedi texts are there. Rey apparently took them from the tree before she left Octu. Rose isn't looking so good. Finn's sort of attending to her, and yeah. There were a lot of different ways we could have gone with that whole triangle thing in the next movie, but again, only had so much time to tell a story, and JJ wasn't dealt a good hand. Alright, nice little moment here with Rey and Leia. We talk about losing Luke. You'd think Leia would be more distraught about that. I like that we see the crystal. So that line, we have everything we need, gets used a lot in Rise of Skywalker too. So what do we have? Like maybe a dozen Resistance fighters still alive? Cut to the... This is the worst. If the movie had ended there, it would have been okay. But we cut to these dumb kids on Canto Bight again. Kevin, thanks, bro. Yeah. Oh, you have lots to say about the next one. Oh, man. I feel like we're going to butt heads. Rise of Skywalker next Tuesday. If you want to watch Solo with me on Saturday, though, I'm going to be doing Solo Saturday night. Boy, as he is affectionately referred to, gets the last shot here, which is just so funny. So funny, guys. Even with the Force, you have to die. This part sucks. I love the last three. Yay! I'm so glad that you're on here and that you love the last three, because I love a lot about the last three. Kevin, where's Snap Wesley? He doesn't come back until Rise of Skywalker, right? The Broom Kid ending is terrible. It is real bad. I just don't understand why. I mean, Ron's idea was that the legacy of Luke Skywalker was carrying on, and he wanted to see that continuing across to other people in the galaxy, other characters. But I think the stronger choice, again, I'm going back to choices and what makes a good and a bad choice, I think the stronger choice is to have a character that we know and love and are connected to be the final shot of them. By the way, Broom Boy does actually have a real name, and it's a terrible real name. Let me find it here for you. I think Blag? Yeah, Tamiri Blag. Talk about a great heroic name, Blag. Get over here, Blag. Alright, so let me just glance over these couple quick, see if there's anything else I want to mention. Here's a quote from Kathleen Kennedy, and I'll leave it at this. So in December 2015, this was before any of the sequel trilogy came out, Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy said, "We haven't mapped out every single detail of the trilogy yet, and that Abrams was collaborating with Johnson, and that Johnson would in turn work with Colin Trevorrow to ensure a smooth transition." Well, as much as I love the sequel trilogy, and I do, I mean, obviously I don't love this movie, but the other two I like, I think we can all agree that the transition between films is anything but smooth. There's some level of, like, clunkiness because it clearly was not mapped out in the way that Kathleen had originally thought it would. Alright, guys, a lot to say about that movie. I'm certain there's a lot more I could say because I write all these notes down and then I don't really look at them because I'm just invested in my time with you all because I love you all so very much. Solo. I'm doing it Saturday, but I'm going to switch it to Saturday night instead of Saturday afternoon. So 6 o'clock, Solo. I think that's on Netflix instead of Disney+, so we'll have to use Netflix instead. And then we'll wrap everything up a week from today for Rise of Skywalker. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Smooth. I love all the comments, guys. You are awesome. And like I sign off every night, may the Force